Hi, welcome to Encasha Tech Videos. This is a two-part video on Angular reactive forms and validations. In the first part, we will create a new project and build a simple form with some basic validations added to it. We will take a look at custom validators in the second part. So let's start by creating a new Angular project using Angular CLI. The command ng new with a project name, reactive forms for now we are giving. So it will install all the dependencies and create a project. You can see a ready project now with the home page of Angular. This is the default page. Now to integrate the reactive forms, we have to import reactive forms module and forms module in the app module.ts. Also we have to add it to the imports array. So let's add it, reactive forms module and forms module. So now for this particular example we are using Bootstrap UI library. So let's start installing the Bootstrap library. So npm install bootstrap latest. Its dependencies jQuery, tether and popper.js. While it is pulling all the libraries from Bootstrap, tether and jQuery, so all the installations done. Now let's add reference to these libraries in the file called angularcli.json. So starting with the styles, so it's referred from the node modules, bootstrap dist css, bootstrap min.css. Similarly, take the script library as a reference. So we'll start adding one by one, starting from jQuery and then bootstrap, the JS file, and the last one is the popper.js. So let's go to the app.component.html, remove the older code and write a simple form. So this form will just take the title, description and a category, which is a drop down. So it's a simple form we are going to build. So let's go to the component and start importing the core components of reactive forms. So that is form builder, form group and the validators. So these are part of Angular forms, and we have to create some variables over there in the component. So let's remove this, the default title variable, and start writing the variables of this form, that is our form will for example our form is a form group variable that we are taking, and some other variables that will be used in the form. So categories is an array that will be bound to the drop down, and some error message variables which will be used to display the messages dynamically. So let's inject the form builder object from the constructor and create a form group with the method exposed by form builder so that's group, which takes input as a JSON object. So each property of this JSON object is an item in the controls array, form controls array. So each item represents single control in the form. So for example over here we can see that it's title, description and category. So the main part over here is we are adding the validators as well in the component code is itself. So as I said, we just have to add some items in the category drop down. So let's start writing one interface which will be representing an item in the category drop down. Say interface I category. Let's add anything like ID, which is a number, and some other attributes as well. So this is a simple interface I category which will be used to add an item in the drop down. Next, add some mock data. For our just demo purpose, we'll just use some mock data instead of pulling it from the server. So let's call it as mock categories, and I'll just use some mock data over here. One more thing, I have to refer the interface I category since I'm using it in this file. So let's go to the component and start using the mock category data. So first import the I category interface and then the mock categories class. So we'll be using it straight away in the components drop down control to populate the categories array. So let's create a method called populate categories. So it should be simply setting the categories array that we have declared earlier from the mock categories. So both are of the matching type. Since categories is an any variable, it is matched to any kind of interface. So just call this method and the constructor itself. Now let's go to the terminal and start building it using ngserve. And yeah, it's compiled successfully. One thing you'll notice that our category is populated as expected, but the form is bit odd. Let's add some styles. So I just pulled some styles and pasted it over here to add some padding and center. Just use this class and wrap the form inside a div so that we'll have some decent form, at least not that good but a decent form to see. And let's see how it looks now. Okay, so that's pretty much decent as such. We can work on this. Now let's initialize the error messages that we are going to work on. So for example, starting with the title, so title error message, we'll set this message so that it can be used whenever required. Title, description, category all have messages, and just call this method in the constructor itself for now. Now let's see how to bind these form variables in the HTML template. So form group and all the control array items, sorry. So the form should have a attribute called form group. This is the way we bind the form group to this form, and each control should have a form control name attribute bound to the name that we have used in the component code. So exactly the same name we have to give, and that's all we have to do to bind our control to the component code. So it's a simple way of adding the whole logic in the component instead of loading your HTML with all the validations and all. Let's write the submit code. What will happen when a submit button is clicked? So let's call a simple method there with the form value. Let's see how it looks. So it's a simple form still. It doesn't show any error messages right now. You can write, but there is nothing, no error messages, no description, no category, still no messages. Let's see how we add the validation messages. So we just use one of the Bootstrap classes, alert, and to show a stylish validation message. And we have to just use the proper message over here. So as you remember, we have added the title error message in the component, so we can directly bind that variable over here. So no need to hard code it in the HTML. But still, one thing we have to do is add an ngIf attribute so that it decides when this message is to be displayed. So as we can see, the controls array of form group is having all the items. So we will check each item for the validation. If it is valid, then leave it, else check if it is not valid, and if it is touched, that means if it is reached, it's touched by the user, and it is still invalid, then show the error message. Let's see if it works. Go to the control and leave it. So that's what is expected. So let's add this for other controls as well. So copy all the same thing, and we have to see the touch property over here as well. Just replace the description, title with description, and the error message as well. So instead of title error message, it should be description error message. And let's see, we have added a validation of min and max values as well, in addition to the required attribute. So let's see if it works. We add the title. Okay, so both the validation messages work. Let's see if the description min and min length works. So we add, okay, the error message disappears. That's it for now. Thanks for watching the video. In the next video, we will see how to add a custom validator to the drop down.